Okay, guys, ready to go? My name's Paul Rankin, ex-Roche, ex-IBM, ex-Accenture. I'm now freelance, actually. I do a lot of consultancy for a number of organizations. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the developer experience, especially when it comes to data products, distributed architecture, data mesh, if you like, a little bit in there. What I see working with a number of organizations today is really two patterns, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Is really one, you have your very central, monolithic IT type of pattern, usually centralized, built around a data warehouse, a data lake, very stable, highly skilled team of developers, data engineers, DBAs, etc. And then you have the complete opposite, which is essentially very decentralized, business-led, usually, right? People working with minimal data management practices, let's call it like that, but it's fast, And I think this is where I see businesses really struggling today, is they want fast, but they also, from an IT perspective, want good data management practices. They want governance, they want security, they don't want to be restricted and blocked by those traditional IT governance processes. So, how do we get businesses to be fast and to be secure, to be governed, sticking to these good data management practices? Because it shouldn't be an either or, right? I mean, businesses can expect to go fast, but also go fast, well and governed. So, you'll probably be familiar with this scenario, and this is what certainly I'm finding in a lot of companies I'm working with now, is, business ask IT, we need our data to solve a certain problem, we need it now, we need to go fast, and IT are kind of asking them, well, we need to follow the processes, please send your requirements, we'll add it to the backlog, and, usually what happens is, IT say, well, 6 months later, we're ready to start. By that time, business have said, no, we're just going to go on our own. We're going to get our good friends from Accenture, TCS, to help us here. And, hey, presto, 2 weeks, they've got a team in, and they've got it alone. I mean, anybody familiar with this? It's probably, quite a familiar process. All right, so introducing data mesh, or data products, domain ownership, whatever you want to call it. Now, this was us, 3 years ago at Roche. My good friend Omar is in the audience here. We thought that data mesh would solve all these problems for us. At Roche, we were very slow. We had, very long life cycle, very long release cycles. Data business wanted to go fast. IT were a little bit slow. So we thought, bring in the data mesh guys, we're going to work with data mesh, we're going to work with ThoughtWorks, everything's going to be rosy. What I find now, today, speaking to other customers, they think data is a product, and I get a lot, we'll just change our data sets to data products, we'll just rename them, everything will be fine. Self-service data platform, we've got AWS, no problem, that's covered. Domain ownership, now what usually happens, and I see, is the IT department split themselves into verticals. So they have, business-driven verticals or business-aligned verticals. And this is what a lot of people see as domain ownership nowadays. And I think it's because it's easier to do this rather than facing the difficult part. Federated governance, actually speaking to a lot of businesses, they don't actually know what it means, for one. And even though they think they know what it means, a lot of them think it means that we don't have to follow the IT governance anymore. We can absolutely go on our own. Okay? So, by companies that want to follow this new transition to domain ownership, to data products, usually what happens is, yes, cross-functional teams arrive, because that's clearly how they can deliver data products, how they can deliver these, this new way of working. And what I see in a lot of companies is developers are now, onboarded to these cross-functional teams, and the business or the managers of these teams are saying, okay, here's all our tools. Please build us these data products. And, here's our AWS account, here's our Git repository, here's our data quality tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, what do you expect them to do? It was okay when they were part of a central team, a central IT team, because then they could work with each other. It was very centralized, highly skilled developers. But as soon as you move to this distributed architecture, distributed ownership, these developers are kind of brought in and left on their own a little bit. And this is what I find today. People are moving to this. And I really feel sorry for developers. They're having an absolute nightmare at the moment. And just by moving to data products alone and moving to cross-functional teams are not going to solve your problems. And this is where I find the developer experience is so important to hear. Yeah. Now, introducing the self-service data platform. And this is key to the developer experience. Basically, what we're trying to do right here is we're trying to abstract a lot of the complexities away from these developers. What we want is the developers to come in, have this guided developer journey, and I'll show you this in a minute, and not have to worry about, well, how am I going to connect to my LDAP system? How am I going to be able to secure my data at granular level? How am I going to meet all these governance policies that I need to regulatory meet, We as a data platform team, essentially this is the IT team reborn as this enablement team, if you like. We need to then be a service provider to these data product teams. We need to enable these developers to be fast, but also to build in a secure and a governed with good data practices, good data management practices, all right? And this is how I portray it. A lot of you may have seen, that have listened to me before, have seen this portray of this three-tier data platform where it's all focused around these persona journeys. Yeah? And what we're going to focus on a little bit now today is this, this developer journey here. So if you think about the developer journey, I've tried to, this is one of the things we do with a lot of customers is portray and visualize this developer journey. Because most developers now, they get onboarded, they're asked to build data products, and they may know the tooling, they may know, technically how to build it, but they need to understand, what the journey is. And building a data product clearly involves a lot more characteristics, and it can be a lot more complex than just your data set, your data warehouse that we've previously been building. And what I want to talk a little bit about and show you the journey as a developer, okay, from ingestion through to transformations, data quality, all the way through to publishing and operating data products. Yeah? So if we then look a little bit about the change in operating model, yeah? So what we started off with back in the day, we had monolith, we had data warehouse teams, data lake teams, very central, very highly skilled, governed in a way. Publishing data sets or data marts, if you like, or even reports in some cases. But now we move to this distributed ownership model. And we have two different types of teams. One is your data platform team, which we discussed about before. The job of the data platform team is really to provide services to the data product teams. And essentially, we're talking about the developers. So most of these services we'll talk about today is services for the developers of the data product teams. We need to provide them out the box in a governed, secure way for them to ingest data, for them to build and manage their data, for them to do their transformations, do their modeling, publishing to the catalog, if you like, providing the right metadata, the right context, the right access control capabilities. All of these things we need to provide as a service. And when I go into a lot of companies, too often you see everyone trying to rebuild exactly the same stuff. They're all trying to rebuild their ingestion frameworks. They're all trying to rebuild their transformations, their data models. They're all trying to connect to LDAP for their access controls, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? What we need to do, as organizations, we need to move all this back to a service. We need to offer these capabilities as a service and abstract them away from the developer teams, yeah? And that's really what we'll look at now is the concept that I try to build in and try to manage for a lot of companies now is more like a template project and a reference project. Yep. And this is, for me, is what DataOps is all about. Yep. Is really the experience and the services that you can offer to developers to allow developers to go fast, but also in a controlled way. So what you see here, and I will show you this in real time in the next slide, but what you want to offer as a platform team are the jobs that the developer needs to build a data product. So then what happens is the developer only needs to worry about is their configuration of their own pipeline. And when I mean that is they need to worry about clearly the connection to their sources, they need to worry about the configuration, the endpoints, the way that it needs to flow, all the capabilities that they want to bring in. But they're inheriting, the services, and when I mean services, that's one service, is ingest data, from a source to their main repository. And that can be anyway, through an API, through a SQL Server database connection, scraping from a website. But all of these things are services that you want your developers and your data product teams to be able to inherit, right? Now, what I want to show you now is I tried to, and I'll talk you through this, I tried to video, for a client that I'm working with just now. Instead of me explaining to it, I wanted to show you from actually a real client, and I wanted to show you how the developer journey is from the start. It really all starts with a kind of a data product discovery workshop. And this here is a little clip of a typical workshop. This is usually more around the definition of data products, the value of data products, what it means, roles and responsibilities, ways of working. This is usually done in some kind of, this is Miro, but some kind of data product design workshop. Then you kind of move from there to more of the technical modality designer. And again, this is, you can do this in any way. We have built a tool in some clients that are actually is guided to the modalities that they're looking for. And in this case, there's a big Snowflake client. We use DataOps.live for this client. And essentially, we're working out what modality we need for this particular use case. This is more of a kind of a traditional data warehouse type of modality you see here. It could be more of a real-time streaming modality. It could be, more of a web scraping modality. But it needs to be guided for this developer journey. So this is just the next part of the journey. And out of that comes the infrastructure provisioning for this team. Clearly, we've decided this is the modality we need for this data product or this use case. And now we move to the infrastructure provisioning. This should be entirely automated from the information that you get, both from the workshop and both from the modality session. You can see here in this client that all they need to do is type in the information that they derived from the modality in the workshop, and then that whole infrastructure is automated and provisioned. In this case, it's Snowflake provisioning environment, it's AWS, it's Secrets Manager, it's the LDAP repository. All of that is automated from that workshop and from that small piece of information that the support team provided. And you can see this is building all the infrastructure. Maybe it takes a couple of minutes, so it fast-forwarded it. But it really is managing the complete infrastructure ready for the developers to then work with. So you can see here in this example, all of these components completely automated. And that's the next part of the journey where the developer can then arrive and start in a seamless way. We're just checking all these components and actually what it looks like in real time. Here, so as I said, a big Snowflake client, this customer, and you can see here, it is actually provisioned what we call this is a market data example. This client is a Swiss energy company, and they're obviously interested in market data. This is particularly weather data, so coming from some weather APIs there, and then you can just see here that. Just showing you, the buckets that were created in AWS and Secrets Manager, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the environment all built. Now along comes the developers for these teams. As a developer, I want to create my own developer environment. I create a feature branch, as you do. Here you go. This is also in DataOps.live. And they create a feature branch particularly for this developer. And this is what developers love, is they love their own database, their own production database with a copy of production data, that they can do their own features. This for me, this is a dream as a developer. They do that, you see there, when they've got their own database, Now all they need to do is inherit, jobs, and we'll show you this. This is a DTN pipeline. DTN is a weather API, and we'll show you here in the online developer studio. As a developer, what I can then inherit from this platform reference project. And this is the really good bit. Yeah, this is what I want to really show you. All of these jobs, they're kind of like service items, if you like. I can, ingest data from an API to Snowflake. I can, ingest data S3 to Iceberg. I can scrape from an FTP server. I will decide what services I want to use from the reference project. This is the real killer. It makes developers' life so much easier. I then decide, in this case, I've decided I want to ingest data directly from an API into Snowflake. Yep. I go to the documentation, like you just saw, and I see what I need to put in, how I can use this service. This is also really important. And from that documentation, okay, actually, I need to put in this information, and this is the information that I need that will trigger my ingestion. So all I really need to know is the connection details and what variables to pass to the pipeline. Okay? And this is what you're seeing now, is these are the variables that I will pass. And from there, they'll trigger their pipeline. And, that's the expectation, is that we don't want developers to spend time having to know how to connect to data sources. Yep. We need them to bring the information, bring their connection details, and provide the variables, and for their data to arrive, And I think that a lot of companies are not understanding really what DataOps is. Yep. And I speak to a lot of people, and they're saying, well, DataOps is just CI/CD. It's just Git repository. I've got Git. I've got a runner. What do I need? For me, this is DataOps. It's the developer experience. Yep. It's being able to manage and configure these services. And they can be anything. They don't just have to be ingestion frameworks, publishing to catalog, data quality frameworks, source validations, all of these things. So basically, that gives you a kind of an idea of what I term as the real developer experience with DataOps. And I think in summary, we're all trying to achieve, or all organizations are trying to achieve speed at scale, whilst trying to adhere to those, like I said, those good data management practices. And for me, I think it's really important, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. But if we can really achieve this, speed and good data management practices, I think this is where we need to get to. And then IT, and going back to the beginning, I've always asked the question when I work with new clients, is what value does IT bring now to the business? Because a lot of customers I work with, IT have kind of lost the value that they bring to the party. A lot of times IT are left with the legacy infrastructure. A lot of the companies still have data centers owned by themselves. And you see that they're essentially looking after the legacy infrastructure, the hardware, and they're basically just a cost center at the end of the day, where IT now need to rediscover a lot of the times the value that they're bringing to the party. And to me, this is the value. We do not want businesses to really have to understand all the complexities of their data capabilities. And this is, really what I try to bring IT back into the game, if you like. And just before we wrap up, and we have time for a few questions if it is, but this one company that I'm working with, a Swiss company, you can see where they've moved to. And a lot of these people, these metrics here, people will say, that's impossible. You'll never be able to do this. One day developer onboarding complete. I mean, you saw it there. It is completely automated. There is no reason to wait any longer. 30 minutes average time to ingest new supported source. So if there's a service that says SFTP to S3, for example, that's a service that the data platform is offering. Why does it take any longer than 30 minutes for someone to put in their connection details to their SFTP and their bucket details? As long as it's all connected, the data platform is building that, all they need to do is bring their secrets, if you like. 10 days average time to publish new data products. I mean, again, in some cases it's a lot lower. And some more complex data products are a lot higher. But essentially, we can publish a very simple data product in 1 day now. And that is the expectation now, really. Again, some big savings on ETL licenses, 1.5 million, because when I worked at Roche, everybody was doing ETL. Everybody had their own license for Talent, for Denodo, for Alpiq, for everything, and they were all, doing their own ETL. Why do we need this? It's configuration at the end of the day. We're moving to ELT, and we're just loading data. 50 releases every month compared to a release every month. For this company, it was a huge win. People were releasing and releasing just for table name changes. Why do I need to wait for a month till the next release just to change a name on my table in Snowflake? I mean, this is crazy. As long as you have good versioning for your data products, as long as you have this control process in place, why do you need to wait for a month to the next release? So this is what I want to get across is, for me, DataOps is really speed at scale and good data management practices combined. This can offer you the best of both worlds. I have got time for maybe a couple of questions. I've got 5 minutes left. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm happy to. Yes, sir.
I don't have a mic, but so essentially, I agree with you on the journey of the kind of developer experience.
Yep.
And all of that, but most of the time, when you kind of move over to, like, at least for me, I've done this a few times, is that the teams that are meant to become the consumers, they tend to not have necessarily a data engineer in place.
Yep.
Or things like that. So essentially, then they don't kind of expand where you might provide like, or let's say a core data set or a core data model.
Okay.
Or
Yep.
you maybe guide them in how to actually structure the data because you might achieve this.
So.
You slow yourself down because.
So Simon's he's asking the question about the data product teams, and they necessarily don't have the right skills in the particular team. Correct? Is that what you said, Simon? So, and you're asking really how can we accelerate that, but how can we get the skill set up in the teams? And what I'm saying is you actually don't need the highly skilled DataOps engineers in the teams to do this. The very highly skilled DataOps engineers are providing the services within the data platform team for the DataOps teams to inherit, the data product teams to inherit. And essentially, all you need is your vanilla data engineers, not necessarily highly skilled like the ones in the data platform team. And that's how you get that scale at speed. Sorry?
So in a lot of times, you don't even
Yeah.
have that. For example, if you work in small organizations, that might
Yeah.
not even exist. You might have a resource for data scientists.
Ex-
They don't know
Yeah.
data. They just want to build something, and then you might have this speed of pushing out data, but you end up with the same mess anyway.
So again, Simon's saying you may not have those skills in that team, and that then is not fit for every company. One, distributed ownership and data mesh is not fit for every company. That's absolutely for sure. Now, what I'm working with a number of clients, they're actually doing something slightly different. They are providing the same model, the same responsibility of ownership, a data product team and a platform team, but they're building a data product team within IT that is looking after all these, let's call, source-orientated data products. And that is, I think, a way that would solve some of the problems maybe you're having, Simon. This is not wrong. This is not pure data mesh the way that Jamak envisioned it, but it's not wrong. It works. Absolutely works. And not every organization is going to implement a data mesh or a distributed ownership in the same way. That's clear. Some organizations are a lot more mature than other organizations. Some have a bigger budget than other organizations. But, you know, I think either way, this model using DataOps, yeah, will actually accelerate your journey for you. So that's me out of time, guys, but thanks you very much. Grab me if you want to ask more questions. And if you want to contact me, here's my contact details. Yeah. Thank you.